November 2025, the United States tried to ban South Africa from the G20, not suspend them, ban a founding member from the world's most powerful economic club. And Trump's reason? South Africa is committing genocide against white people. Alright, before you think this is just another diplomatic spat, understand this. This isn't about aid or trade. This is about who gets to set the rules for the entire global economy. By the end of this video, you will see what's happening beneath the headlines. Stay with me. November 2025, Johannesburg. First G20 summit ever held on African soil. The G20 controls 80% of global GDP. 19 countries plus the EU and now the African Union. Now, South Africa is hosting with an agenda written in Johannesburg, not Washington. Debt relief, climate finance, and forcing countries to process their own minerals instead of shipping raw cobalt to China and buying back batteries. Now, every member showed up. China, France, Germany, Brazil, everyone except for one country, the United States of America. The country taking over the presidency in 2026. Then Trump said South Africa won't be invited in the 2026 summit in Miami. He claims genocide against white Afrikaners and land confiscation. So, is there any genocide happening? Human rights organizations say no. There is no systematic state-directed extermination. Farm attacks? It's real. Rural crime in South Africa is brutal. But genocide has a specific legal meaning, and the evidence isn't there. Even African civil society groups wrote an open letter saying, "Not in our name." So, if the claim doesn't hold up, why use it and why now? There is an African proverb, until the lion learns to ride, every story glorifies the hunter. Now, someone taught the hunter viral content strategy. The white genocide narrative circulated in far-right circles for a decade. Then, the US conservative media amplified it. Early 2025, Trump showed Ramaphosa videos in the Oval Office claiming to prove genocide. South African officials said the footage was misinterpreted, and this is narrative warfare. Take a domestic debate, land reform, translate it into culture war language, then use it to justify geopolitical decisions. Now, after the summit, Ramaphosa called out groups spreading disinformation, saying they are endangering South Africa's national interest and destroying jobs. But here is what they are really fighting about. While everyone was arguing about farm attacks, South Africa was doing something much more dangerous to the existing order. They pushed 4 shifts in how the global economy works. 1. Debt relief. Many African countries spend more on debt payments than health and education combined. South Africa got the G20 to create new mechanisms to reduce debt costs. 2. Climate finance. Rich countries cost the emissions. Poor countries suffer the consequences. The G20 agreed to increased funding for adaptation and disaster recovery. 3. The big one, critical minerals beneficiation. The DRC has 70% of the world's cobalt, essential for EV batteries. They export raw cobalt, cheap, then import finished batteries, expensive. Now, South Africa said, what if we stop that from happening? What if African countries process their own minerals first? The G20 agreed. It's in the official declaration. 4. South Africa commissioned economists Joseph Stiglitz to lead the first ever G20 community on global inequality, treating inequality like a systemic risk on par with global climate change. So if you're Washington watching a global South country challenging debt structures, demand climate reparations, threaten Western control for mineral supply chains, and legitimize wealth redistribution, you are seeing a blueprint for other countries to follow. Now, quick context on the land issue everyone is weaponizing. In 1913, South Africa reserved 83% of land for white people, and the land population represents just 10% of the South African population. By 1994, white South Africans own 72% of land. Today, still around 70%. Now, the question isn't whether reforms should happen. Most people agree it should. The question is, how? The South African government passed a law allowing expropriation without compensation in the public interest. But courts can review every case. Is it perfect? No. Is the South African government perfect? Also no. But is it genocide? That's where the conversation gets hijacked to avoid talking about what South Africa did at the G20.
We must make it clear that South Africa is one of the founding members of the G20, and South Africa is therefore a member of the G20 in its own name and right. We will continue to participate as a full, active and constructive member of the G20.
Nationally televised address, calm, presidential, he reminded everyone South Africa is a founding member of the G20. You can't uninvite founding members because you disagree with their politics. Then he thanked the American people, not the administration, for their anti-apartheid support. And then he invoked the US Bill of Rights as inspiration for South Africa's constitution.
We recall how the Bill of Rights in the United States Constitution inspired us as we wrote our own constitution.
Political judo separates Trump from America's values. Then he went further to say something that stuck. We must never allow others to redefine our country or dictate who we are as a nation. Now, that's not just about Trump. That's information sovereignty. Now, we are watching the global order fracture, not into Cold War blocks, but multiple overlapping systems, traditional Western institutions, BRICS plus expanding to include Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, UAE, and now the African Union as a full G20 member, bringing 1.4 billion people on the table. Now, if a future host can unilaterally exclude a founding member, multilateralism loses legitimacy. Countries go elsewhere, BRICS becomes more attractive, regional blocs strengthen, and the dollar dominance gets questioned more openly. So you get a multipolar world that is messier and potentially more unstable. South Africa isn't perfect. Corruption scandals, service delivery problems, high unemployment, those are real. But using fabricated high claims to delegitimize foreign policy is different from legitimate criticism of governance, and that difference matters. The US takes over the presidency in December. The Miami summit is November 2026. Will South Africa attend? They have said yes, and here is what you need to watch. Will other members publicly support South Africa's right to participate? Thus, the 2026 agenda erase the inequality and beneficiation language South Africa fought for, and how many African countries follow the same playbook, using international platforms to demand structural changes instead of just asking for aid. Because that's the real test. South Africa showed what happens when an African country chairs a global institution and actually uses that power. Now, the story we are told, Trump defended white farmers. The counter story, Trump used racism to undermine Africa. And the actual story, it's about power. Who has it? Who wants it? And what narratives they will deploy to get it. South Africa walked into the room, into the G20, with an agenda written in Johannesburg. They got most of it into the final declaration, and they are not apologizing. Whether you like their domestic policies or not, what we just watched is Africa learning to play power politics at the highest level. And some people are really uncomfortable about that. So here is my question. Do you think the G20 still matters? Or are we watching multilateralism die in real time? Drop your thoughts below. If you want to understand how Africa is actually navigating this multipolar world, not the headlines, the actual strategy, hit subscribe. This is the Strategic Lens. I'm Luis. See you in my next investigation. Bye.